Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why an American asks for their restroom while a Brit is looking for the loo?
Or why complimenting a stranger's shoes is a great conversation starter in the States, but might feel a little forward in the UK?
Exactly. If you're learning English, you've probably noticed that the English spoken in Los Angeles sounds and feels completely different from the English spoken in London.
And these aren't just little quirks. They're windows into two unique cultures that, despite sharing a language, have their own distinct ways of doing things. That fear of using the wrong word or accidentally offending someone? It's real.
Oh, definitely. An American might be totally confused if you ask for plasters for a cut.
And a Brit will definitely have a little giggle if you say you're wearing a new pair of pants.
That's what this video is for. We're going to be your guide through all these differences. We'll break down the top 10 major language and social divides between American and British cultures, from vocabulary and pronunciation to the unwritten rules of humor and small talk.
Our goal is to help you communicate with confidence, no matter who you're talking to.
All right, let's jump right into the most obvious and often most hilarious difference: vocabulary. There are hundreds of everyday words that are different.
And while you can often figure it out from context, knowing the big ones can save you a lot of grief. Imagine you're getting dressed. In the US, you put on a sweater, pants, and sneakers.
Whereas in the UK, you'd be putting on a jumper, trousers, and trainers. Now, you have to be so careful with the word pants.
Right? In the US, it's what covers your legs.
But in the UK, pants means your underwear. So, if you tell someone in London you like their pants, you're giving them a very personal compliment.
It doesn't stop there. An American lives in an apartment. A Brit lives in a flat. An American drives a truck.
A Brit drives a lorry. An American goes on vacation in the fall.
And a Brit goes on holiday in the autumn. In the kitchen, an American grabs a cookie and some chips.
While a Brit would ask for a biscuit and some crisps. But if you ask for chips in the UK, you'll get what Americans call French fries. See? Confusing.
It gets even more specific. That big bin for your garbage is a trash can in the US.
But a rubbish bin or dustbin in the UK. The front of a car is the hood in America and the bonnet in Britain. The back is the trunk in the US and the boot in the UK.
In an office building, you take an elevator in New York, but a lift in Manchester. That paved surface you walk on? It's a sidewalk in the US.
And a pavement in the UK. While most Brits are pretty familiar with American vocabulary from movies and TV, it doesn't always work the other way around. Your goal as a learner is to be understood, and knowing these key pairs is a huge step toward communicating with clarity and confidence.
Next up is something you'll notice in writing. Spelling. If you've ever typed a document and your spell checker just lit up with red squiggly lines, you've seen this difference firsthand.
It's not that one is right and one is wrong. They're just two different systems. Once you know what to look for, you'll start seeing the patterns everywhere. First, there's the our versus or thing. British English likes to keep the you in words like color, humor, and flavor.
And American English simplifies them to color, humor, and flavor. Then you've got re versus er.
Right. In British English, you'll see words like center, theater, and leader.
American English just flips them around to center, theater, and leader. Another big one is ise versus is.
British English often uses ands in words like organize, realize, and apologize.
While American English pretty much always uses a z'd, turning them into organize, realize, and apologize.
And finally, keep an eye out for the double L. In British English, when you add an ending to a verb that finishes in L, you usually double it. So, travel becomes traveled and traveling.
In American English, the single L wins out, traveled and traveling. These might feel like tiny details, but they matter in formal writing. If you're applying for a job in London, using British spelling shows you've done your homework.
The key is just to be consistent. Pick a style for your document and stick with it.
Now for something you hear immediately, pronunciation. The difference between a standard American and a standard British accent is one of the first things people notice.
And while there are dozens of regional accents in both countries, we can focus on a couple of major patterns. The first is all about whether you pronounce the letter R at the end of words. The fancy term is rhoticity.
Most American accents are rhotic, meaning the R is always heard. Think of car, park, or hard. You really hear that R sound.
In contrast, standard British accents are mostly non-rhotic. The R sound gets dropped unless it's followed by a vowel. So those same words, car, park, hard, sound more like ka, pak, and had. Fun fact, the first English settlers in America brought their rhotic accents with them. Back in England, the upper classes started dropping the R to sound fancy, and it just stuck.
The second big difference is the T sound, especially when it's between two vowels. Americans have something called a T flap, where the T softens into a D sound. The classic example is butter, which sounds like butter. You hear it in water, water, and party, party.
In British English, that T is usually much sharper, or sometimes it's swallowed entirely in what's called a glottal stop, like the middle of uh-oh.
Vowels also change dramatically. Take the A in words like dance, bath, or laugh. In a standard American accent, it's a flat A, like in cat.
In Southern British English, it's a broad ah sound, like in father. Understanding these core differences will do wonders for your listening skills. You'll stop thinking you misheard a word and start recognizing it for what it is. Just a different accent.
Beyond words and sounds, there are subtle but important grammar differences that can trip you up. Let's start with a classic. Collective nouns. These are words for groups, like team, government, or band. In American English, these are almost always singular. You'd say, the band is playing tonight, or my team is winning.
In British English, it's more flexible. You can treat them as singular or plural. It's actually very common to use the plural form, so you'll hear, the band are playing tonight, or the government are debating. Neither is wrong, just different.
Another famous split is the past participle of to get. In American English, you have got and gotten. I've got to go means I have to go, but I've gotten better at English means I have become better.
And in British English, gotten basically disappeared. We just use got for both. I would say, I've got much better at English.
Prepositions can be sneaky too. Do you do something at the weekend or on the weekend?
In the UK, it's at.
In the US, it's on. Americans will also sometimes drop prepositions altogether, saying, I'll see you Tuesday, while a Brit would almost always say, I'll see you on Tuesday.
And then there are helping verbs. Shall is still pretty common for offers in British English. Shall I open the window? Or shall we go?
In America, shall sounds really formal or old-fashioned. You're much more likely to hear should I or wanna go. Nailing these little quirks will make you sound much more natural.
Of all the cultural hurdles, humor might be the trickiest. British humor is famously built on irony, sarcasm, and understatement.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, irony is saying the opposite of what you mean. So if it's pouring with rain, I might look out and say, with a perfectly straight face, lovely day for it. Then there's understatement. I could describe a near-death experience by saying, yeah, things got a bit sticky for a minute there. It's all about downplaying things.
That makes sense. American humor, on the other hand, is often more direct, energetic, and a bit more obvious. We use sarcasm, of course, but we usually signal it more clearly with our tone of voice. American comedy loves exaggeration and hyperbole. If a Brit downplays a situation, an American might blow it up for laughs.
Right? And we tend to make fun of ourselves and downplay achievements.
Whereas joking about how great you are can be funny in the US, where it's seen as a playful boast. The humor is often more upbeat and relatable, like in powerhouse sitcoms like Friends.
Navigating this is tough. Our deadpan delivery can sound serious.
And American enthusiasm can be mistaken for being insincere. The key is to listen to the culture behind the joke. Small talk, that polite, informal chit-chat, is a social must in both countries, but the rules of the game are very different. In the United States, people are generally more open to chatting with strangers. It's totally normal for someone to start a conversation in a coffee line.
Whereas in the United Kingdom, people tend to be more reserved, especially with strangers. Launching into a personal conversation with someone you just met can be seen as intrusive.
The goal of American small talk is to create a quick, friendly connection. An American might compliment your jacket or ask what you do for a living as an icebreaker.
And the goal of British small talk is often to politely fill a silence without overstepping. The weather is the absolute classic for a reason. Everyone can talk about it, and no one gets offended. Other safe bets are your journey, the trains were a nightmare today, or some other neutral shared experience.
So an American might see a Brit as cold, while a Brit might find an American's friendliness a little intense.
For learners, the best approach is to start neutral. The weather works everywhere. In the UK, let the other person lead if things are going to get more personal.
And in the US, you can be a bit more forward, but maybe save the deep chats about politics or religion for later.
Politeness is a big deal in both cultures, but it's expressed in totally different ways. British politeness is often incredibly indirect. I'm less likely to say, "Can you close the window?" and more likely to say something like, "Would you mind awfully closing the window?" Or even just, "Gosh, it's a bit chilly in here, isn't it?"
So you're just hoping they get the hint?
Exactly. We also say sorry all the time. We'll apologize even if you bump into us. It's not really an apology, it's more of a social reflex.
American politeness, in contrast, is more direct. Could you please close the window? Is perfectly polite. There's less of that elaborate, indirect phrasing. Friendliness itself is a form of politeness, especially in customer service. In a US restaurant, the server is often super chatty and enthusiastic.
In the UK, service is expected to be efficient and polite, but they're not necessarily trying to be your best friend. This can cause crossed wires. A Brit might think American directness is rude.
While an American might find British indirectness confusing. Are they asking me to close the window or just making a comment about the temperature?
And even greetings differ. In parts of the UK, it's common for a shopkeeper to call you love, duck, or mate.
That would be pretty weird in most of the US, where sir or ma'am are the formal go tos for strangers, if anything is used at all. Here's a deep one: how people in each culture talk about success. The United States is powered by the American dream, the idea that anyone can achieve anything with hard work. Americans are generally comfortable talking about their goals. Tell an American friend about a new business idea, and they'll probably say, "That's awesome. Go for it. You've got this."
The British attitude is often more reserved and skeptical. There's a deep cultural suspicion of boasting. Modesty is a huge virtue. Tell a British friend that same business idea, and their response might be more like, "Right. Have you thought about the tax implications? What's the 5-year plan?" This isn't meant to be negative. It's seen as being practical.
It sounds a little pessimistic.
We call it realistic. There's also a fear of jinxing things by being too optimistic. We love rooting for the underdog, the person who isn't expected to win. But once that underdog becomes a winner, the mood can sometimes turn. There's an old saying, Brits build you up just to knock you down.
You see this in our stories too. American stories are often about heroes who beat the odds.
And our sitcoms are full of lovable failures. It's just two different ways of looking at the world. One of boundless optimism, the other of cautious realism.
We can't wrap this up without talking about slang. It's always changing, but a few iconic examples really show the difference. One of the most famous American slang terms, especially in the South, is y'all, a contraction of you all.
The British equivalent would probably be you lot. So you might hear, "Y'all need to hand in your homework," versus, "You lot need to hand in your homework."
What's a good British one?
If I'm really tired, I'm knackered.
An American would probably just say they're exhausted or beat,
And if something is great, a Brit might call it brilliant.
while an American would go for awesome. Some slang is just wonderfully confusing. In the UK, if you're chuffed, it means you're super happy. If you're gutted, you're devastated.
And in the US, nobody would have a clue what you're talking about. Learning slang is a fun, advanced part of the journey, but just be careful. It can go out of style fast.
After all this, you might be wondering, okay, so which one is right? Which one should I be learning?
The simple answer is neither. They're both correct, standard forms of English. The most important thing is that people can understand you.
Generally, it's a good idea to aim for consistency. If you're planning to study in the UK, it makes sense to lean into British English. If your goal is a job in the US, go for American English.
But honestly, thanks to movies, music, and the internet, most native speakers are exposed to both and will understand you just fine. The biggest risk is those false friends we talked about earlier.
Like pants and trousers?
Exactly. Don't let these differences scare you. See them as a fascinating part of what makes English so rich.
Being aware of them doesn't just make you a better speaker. It gives you a deeper insight into the cultures behind the words and makes you a more flexible communicator.
So we've covered it all: vocabulary, spelling, pronunciation, humor, and so much more. It's clear that the US and UK are two countries divided by a common language, but understanding these differences is your key to unlocking truly confident communication.
The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. Knowing that a jumper is a sweater or that, shall we, is a common British invitation can make all the difference.
Now we have to ask you, what was the most surprising difference on this list for you? Have you ever had a funny or awkward misunderstanding because of these divides?
Share your stories in the comments below. We promise we read them all, and your experiences really help other learners. And if you found this guide helpful and want more lessons to help you speak English with confidence,
Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep creating more free content for you.
thanks for watching.
And keep learning.